What's going on, everybody? I'm TJ from ByteofWhiskey, and today we're going to be talking about Starfield, which, unless you've been under a rock for the last month, is Bethesda's latest release and magnum opus to admittedly mixed reactions, mixed reviews, etc., etc. We're not getting into that today.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
We're talking about survival mode and what we may be able to expect and what we want from it when it eventually drops. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this is there are a few features that are obviously put in place in this game that were supposed to make this a little more of a difficult experience regardless, a lot of things that are going to be implemented when survival mode releases. And we're going to discuss those and how they can be implemented, how they shouldn't be implemented, just what can we expect. So we got 5 things and then a bonus one for what I personally want and think is going to happen with survival mode. So number 1, we're going to cover out the easy one first, is going to be your basic needs. It is in every survival game, every survival experience. It's going to be there. You're going to need to eat, you're going to need to sleep, you're going to need to drink. Period, end of story. We know what's coming, and it's the bread and butter, if you will, with survival modes. Now, how they implement it is going to be probably how every survival game implements it. You're going to be babysitting bars. You got your food, you got your sleep, you got your hydration, and you're going to be you're going to be babysitting those bars. When they get too low, you'll get debuffs, and then you'll have to refill those bars. That's not how I prefer it. How I prefer it is actually in Kingdom Come Deliverance, it was just audio cues.
I feel quite hungry.
But that's neither here nor there. We're not worried about that. Let's just talk about what a waste all of that delicious looking food in this game is. Like, for real, look at it. Everything looks like it's done really, really well.
I'm starving this way.
Makes me hungry. I have a hard time playing this game when I'm looting because the food actually looks good. I hate meatloaf. This makes me want to eat meatloaf. But a lot of this food doesn't do much. Yeah, it gives you an instant heal bonus of 3 or 5 or something of the like, but it's really not enough at all. This also is going to kind of tie into Outpost, if you will, because in Fallout 4, you had to actually take care of your settlements and make sure that they had food, they had water, they had defenses, and etc., etc., etc. I'd like to see that in Outpost, but not as much a focal point because you're not building society, right? You're just setting up outposts. Simply giving them a way to get food should be enough. So if they can make credits from their outposts, then they can trade for food. That's fine, whatever. It doesn't need to be in depth. All right, that's going to lead us into number 2 on my list, and that's going to be fuel and travel. And to be honest, this potentially could be very, very tedious. When you travel from one place to another, right, you'll see, and at the bottom of the little heads up that pops up is a fuel bar. And you have like a white section and an orange section showing that's what it's going to take up. So this is going to take like a quarter of your fuel. But you never have to refuel it. So you never really think about it so long as you can make the jump. That needs to be taken into consideration in survival mode. Now, before I get absolutely
just crucified in the comments,
there's a lesson to learn from Elite Dangerous. Now, Elite Dangerous is a MMO, for lack of a better term, whereas this is a single player game. But if you run out of fuel in Elite Dangerous, you run out of fuel.
This is fine.
There's ways that you can get around it by getting the fuel that you need. You can scoop it from the sun. You can mine it, but I don't even think you can mine it, but you need to actually keep track of your fuel. And in Elite Dangerous, they had a faction of players called the Fuel Rats. There needs to be some kind of system there if you're going to implement fuel like that. If you run out of fuel, it should be a problem.
You're batshit insane!
You should just be adrift. You need to actually land on a planet, get either mine fuel, or as an incentive to join factions,
Help me! Help me!
you call up the Rangers, you call up the UC, you call up pirates, whatever it is, and you pay a price for them to refuel your ship on the way. Now, that's going to be a thing with some jumps because they're just so long, unless you have a massive fuel reserve. As a side note, do not touch fast traveling on planets, Bethesda, please. You don't have any random events to make it interesting. If I am at an abandoned mine and I need to get back to my ship, let me fast travel. This just... Now, if you want to make this interesting, you can import a little bit of Fallout 2 into this, where you have like a dice roll in the background on whether you get a random event or not. That's perfectly fine. We can roll with that. So, example. When you're on planets, you'll see ships land. You can go investigate or you cannot. But with the fast travel and the dice roll, the Fallout 2 style mechanic, you may not be able to avoid it. They may land between you and your ship and you'll have to deal with that. It's we'll just throw this out there, 15% chance it happens, but it's a percentage that you are basically rolling a dice roll for in the background. You'd have to code that in. That's probably not going to happen, but it'd be an interesting way to get you out of just navigating the menus, right? Which is a big complaint with Starfield, is that you're just, and I got in the groove with it, you just fast travel from point to point completing quests. I'm not saying let us fly through systems because it will take a long time. We don't have FTL to make a trip from one planet to another, right? Grab jumps are not FTL. It's more like Futurama than it is like any other sci-fi thing, right? Even if you look at Mass Effect, you have FTL to go between planets. FTL, right? But it takes a while. Even when you are playing like Elite Dangerous, you don't hit faster than light speeds without boosting the frame shift drives. You are hitting just under sub light, but it still takes a while to go from planet to planet. You can go from one planet to another in sublight, but it takes a long time. So to help with that navigation of menus, I think there should be a chance of random encounters when you're fast traveling. So we're going to touch this real quick. Combat. Combat in survival mode needs to be very similar to combat in Fallout 4, where it changes how you engage the enemy. Right now, you could see somebody and you're like, I know I can take everybody there, and just run and do it. At the end of the game, that should be the case. At the beginning of the game, it should have you thinking about whether you really want to engage these pirates or not, whether that bounty is really worth it. I mean, beginning of the game, if you're playing on hard or very hard, your decision making is based solely on, is it worth the amount of ammo I'm going to expend? Because Bethesda still stands by to this day, and I fucking hate it, difficulty equals bullet sponge. Bullet sponge is a terrible way to go about increasing the difficulty. Make it more lethal, make combat snappy, quick, and deadly. That's what I want. That's what a lot of my viewers want, to be honest. That's why you play mods like Frost, like mod packs like Lost World, games like Stalker, survival mode in Fallout 4. It's a lot more lethal in experience. Just make everyone less bullet spongy. That's all you need to do as far as combat goes. You don't need to do anything else. You don't even need to make it Frost or Lost World difficult. Just do what you did in Fallout 4, environmental hazards. Now, this is one of these mechanics that initially you might have been worried about. You land on a random planet and it says environmental hazard, radiation, corrosive, heat. And as you can see, ain't no reason to worry about it. Even on very hard, there's not a lot that you need to worry about. I have yet to encounter serious environmental hazards. And that should be a consideration. When you know that your mission is on a dangerous planet, you want to get in, take care of business, and get out. You don't want to be lackadaisical about it. And that's something that should return in survival mode. There should be a larger punishment in regards to that, to equipment, to you, etc., etc. They need to buff this crap. They really do. Make us be more careful. Make us, it doesn't have to be to the absolute extreme. It just needs to be even, vanilla survival in Fallout 4 levels in regards to radiation. deplete our health pool a bit, deplete our oxygen pool a bit, you know, with the environmental dangers and hanging out in them. And that's going to lead directly into number 5 real quick, where the consequences of that environmental damage or you know, needs to be stepped up. So you can 100% get a disease from a corrosive environment, or you can get burned from fire and heat. Dehydration should be introduced. Sickness, if you land from too high a jump, you can sprain. I think you should be able to break a limb. And in Starfield, it's more of a slight nuisance. It's like an itch that you can't scratch versus like something debilitating. When you get a cough, for example, I went to like an hour of gameplay with a cough before I even realized I had a cough. I heard someone coughing when I was in a player, or not a player, a hub, city or whatever, and I thought it was an NPC coughing, and it took me a while to actually realize that I had a disease, because it doesn't matter. And so you need to buff these up. When you get a cough, that O2 meter should drop. Like, think about when you get bronchitis or you get a cold or allergies like I have right now, right? Cardio becomes difficult because you can't get in enough oxygen. But in Fallout 4 Survival, you've had a chance to catch diseases without being exposed to things, just based on what you did throughout that day. So if you went swimming in the river, then you had a chance at the end of the day of picking up a disease. You could pick up an infection, you could pick up insomnia, etc., etc., etc. And then you had to deal with that. There were debuffs that came with that. They needed to have bigger problems if you catch something in Starfield. It's gotta be a thing, because otherwise, is it gonna be survival? Like, these environments the environmental consequences need to be more severe. Period. End of story. And that's gonna lead into our bonus, the one in the chamber, the last one on this list. That's going to be equipment damage. It's something I've wanted to see return since I started playing Stalker again, to be honest with you. Weapons should degrade from use. It's a reality. Your armor should degrade from taking damage, whether environmental or in gunfights, etc., etc. And honestly, it wouldn't be difficult to implement, even with the spacesuits. So, talking about the spacesuits real quick, when you're on a hazardous planet, right? And you're taking corrosive damage or radiation damage, etc., 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 blah, 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 blah. Your suit condition should deplete, and you need to repair it. Those seals that are protecting you from the environment should be eaten away, especially in corrosive environments. Radiation should deplete your pool or do damage to the suit, right? Maybe not radiation, but heat. And when your suit's damaged, it protects you less. Then you have to repair it. Down to even gunfights. A gunfight in zero atmosphere should be extremely deadly and something you don't want to engage in. Because if you puncture a suit, oxygen's leaking out. Now you need to rapidly fix that. You have the item in the game, and a lot of us Fallout 4 or even 76 veterans that picked up this game, you know what I'm talking about. That duct tape is freaking everywhere. And you picked it up when you first started playing this game thinking, oh, I'm gonna need adhesive. I'm gonna need adhesive. Turns out, adhesive is something completely different. You're trolling me, Todd. You're trolling me. But as an example, you're clearing out a mine or a facility from some ne'er-do-wells. You take a couple rounds, that suit has depleted oxygen reserves, right? It has depleted protections. You know you're not gonna make it back to your ship. If you look in just about everywhere you go, there is enough in that dungeon for you to repair your ship. More often than not, there's even a workbench there for you to take your stuff to and repair or modify. So it's as simple as that. Code in a repair function. You don't have to use spacesuits to do it. You don't have to do that in regards to like Fallout 3 and 4, but even just like the duct tape, the structural, the sealant, stuff like that. Have us repair our suits. And in regards to weapons, have us repair the weapons. That you can 100% do with like how Fallout 3 and New Vegas do. There's not that many weapons. It wouldn't be hard to pick up Spacer's Maelstrom to repair my Maelstrom with. It's just something small. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. It's something I personally want to see. I want to see equipment damage come back. But that's going to wrap it up for this time. Those are the things that I think are coming with survival mode, and, you know, a bonus one that I want to see come in. If you have something that you'd like to see, put it in the comments down below. If you have something that I missed, then put that down there as well. Or if you just want to say I disagree, down there as well. And we're going to be coming out with more content like this. I've got a Nuevo Mexico video that I'm going to be dropping soon. We stream Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So if you want to come hang out, look for us then. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.
Break it down!